honestly, I don't think anything sucks the way heartbreak sucks. Somewhere we have to also understand that it's ourselves we need to work on. I think that's what we're all searching for, right? Like in any relationship, essentially you're searching for safety.
Can you ever really be safe? Eisha Chopra is an actor, a writer, and a spoken word artist. She's featured in many different pieces, including Neerja.
I thought we were here to talk about relationships.
We are.
Okay.
I'm bringing the connection.
My craft is just like completely something that comes in the way. For me, a relationship has always brought out the best sides of me. You know, I find myself kinder, more generous, more compassionate. So I like the person I become. Mm-hmm. Well, no auntie wants me to marry her son because nobody wants an actress in their house. So all those rishtas that were flooding in at one point just stopped. I would just say that the greatest achievement in my life so far.
Hello and welcome back to Love Handle, where we get unfiltered about love and relationships. Today I am so pleased to welcome Eisha Chopra to the podcast. Welcome, Eisha.
Thank you.
Eisha Chopra is an actor, a writer, and a spoken word artist. She's featured in many different pieces, including Neerja, Afwaah, What the Folks, Out of Love, and has even co-written her own film, Do Pyar. Welcome, Eisha.
Thank you.
Let's start by understanding sort of what space you're in right now.
At this moment in time, I'm very consciously single.
Okay.
And it would probably be the first time in my life that I chose that. Mm-hmm. Because I feel that, you know, somehow whenever you're single, and you get asked this a lot as an adult, right? It's like, you're still single? Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost considered a space of hopeful limbo. You know, or something like...
You're like in purgatory.
It's a purgatory that way, you know, you're just sort of like hanging out, but you don't really want to be here. With all the dating failures kind of stacked up one by one, and I realized that I didn't actually know what I was looking for. Not to figure out what I want from dating, but just to kind of reconnect with myself at that level of intimacy that I was trying to offer other people. Yeah. You know?
So what insights have you garnered after this period of very intentional singlehood? Was there any discovery that took place from within?
I think that somewhere, as much as we kind of put ourselves out there as like these wonderful, empowered beings, it does invoke the vulnerability in you. It does invoke the weaknesses inside you. So what I kind of became aware of was that there is a part of me that I tend to make small to fit somebody else. And that was just sad. Of course, you want to compromise, you want to accommodate, you can't make yourself small. And because there's enough space, only because that is, I think, how you lose yourself in relationships.
Yeah, and it might draw you to the wrong people too.
Exactly, because the thing is that the people who reject you are the ones you seem to want to ask for the most of. You know, you want to convince them, but there's like, why not me?
And your ego takes a hit a little
Of course,
bit, right?
And we're going to live with these egos while we're in these human forms, so there's nothing we can do about it. And I think I would advise anyone for this is that learn to do that for yourself. You know, learn to validate yourself, like learn your rights and wrongs so deeply that you don't need anyone else to answer them for you. And that definitely helped in that sense. You know, when you're doing other things, to not worry about when someone is going to like text you back. I mean, the time you save, when you're not wondering when someone can text you back.
I want to talk about your craft.
I thought we were here to talk about relationships.
We are.
Okay.
I'm bringing the connection.
My craft is just like completely something that comes in the way. But
well, that's what I want to know. How, like, everyone's work life and career shapes so much about our identity, right? How has your, you know, training and experience in the creative field shaped your view of relationships, or like actually shaped how you navigate relationships?
Well, no auntie wants me to marry her son because nobody wants an actress in their house. So all those rishtas that were flooding in at one point just stopped. That's something that really sort of bothers a lot of like really Indian families.
Terrible perception. I didn't realize.
No, yeah. And I think that, you know, like fine, at least like the aunties and the moms are a little bit honest about that. But there's a lot of men that you know, they kind of get excited by the idea of somebody who's on camera. It's something that really seems to intimidate them eventually. You know, like this sort of conscious singledom was a lovely choice, but truly you really don't know what progress you've made until you're in relation to another person Of course, I'm fine by myself. Of course, I upset no one. Of course, I don't upset myself.
No one's challenging
Exactly. But so you don't really know where you are as a human being until you're relating to another human being.
It's a mirror.
Absolutely. And I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, a relationship has always brought out the best sides of me. You know, I find myself kinder, more generous, more compassionate. So I like the person I become.
I feel like it's very cool to accept and acknowledge that you want, like you have so much love inside of you and you'd love to share that with somebody else.
And I do believe that this is how love works. You know, it's like putting something in a jar and then just leaving it. If it never gets out, it'll rot.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like an expiry date.
You need an outlet.
You need to get it out. And then sometimes, you know, people do this where they overproject because they've just been waiting to express this. And that's why it's so important to put that out there in art, put that out there in writing, put that out there in a business, create something, give it to your friends, give it to your family, give it to yourself, but put it out, you know, because that is the energy that needs to be circulated. And if you can give it to a person that you can create a good partnership with, well, lucky them.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's so true. I feel like love is one of the most powerful creative forces, you know, and I think so much brilliant art has emerged from love or the converse of it, you know, heartbreak, pain, grief, loss, that sort of thing, and they're equally beautiful. And so how do you navigate heartbreak?
That's not good. Honestly, I don't think anything sucks the way heartbreak sucks. I think we should all be given, you know, office leave,
like exactly maternity leave, but for heartbreak.
Very few things feel that bad. And you know, of course, I'm not talking about like force majeures and like big things that are happening in the world, but I think very few things have felt as bad to me as heartbreak.
It's a physical event. It's like a trauma we just discussed with Dr. Sid. Like it's perceived as like an amputation of the body. Right?
Yes, I think, but then somehow you're not allowed to feel it. Like you're given this 1 month to be depressed, and then you're just supposed to come out of it. I just lean into it, honestly.
Yeah, you just like grieve and feel.
I grieve and I mourn and I make all my friends' lives miserable.
Yeah, that's
the only way to do it.
You've done it for them.
Yes, yes, and I enjoy that.
What is a key lesson you've learned from a past relationship that you've taken forward, maybe for future relationships or in your life in general?
The most important thing, I think, is to be honest about who you are. You know, we all lie. Everyone lies. You can lie about a thing you did. You can't lie about who you are. Because the only thing that will make a relationship last, assuming that we're here to talk about lasting relationships, is that you show up in your genuine authenticity, in your true glory, in all of that stuff. I think that if you show up as anyone that you're not, what is the point? Like, who is here anyway?
Yeah.
You know?
I think some may argue that the point of that is maybe to like appease society's pressure. I
don't know, the voices in my head are a lot louder than the voices of family and community and society.
You should get that checked, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's one that I want to kind of silence.
And do you get messages from your broader society or your relatives or people around you?
I think everyone's given up on me now.
Okay.
I mean, that sweet spot where everyone's just realized that it's not working. It's fine. So they've all left me alone, which is really wonderful.
But was that tough for a phase? You know, you perhaps saw other people, your peers, kind of getting married or perhaps having children. How did you feel when? Honestly,
I didn't feel a thing. Because at the time that this was happening around me, it's not something I wanted. So I can't really feel jealous of something I don't want.
Yeah.
You know, I was always happy for the people around me that were making this choice and unhappy for the people that were making those choices for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And I have good intuition. I always called it. The weddings I was at, which didn't work out, I was right.
Really?
So I had the appropriate dread for those people and the appropriate joy for the people that I have seen. But I don't feel like I ever really kind of came into a relationship that gave me something that I felt that I want to carry this on for the rest of my life. In this regard, I always wanted something no less than something that was stupendous.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And I think that's worth waiting for.
Absolutely.
You know, somewhere we have to also understand that it's ourselves we need to work on.
Yeah.
You know,
and to the person that your person would want also, right? That you resonate at the same wavelength.
So if I asked you that, you know, make a list of the 10 things you want to see in your partner, and we all usually have a great list ready, or we can make one really quick, I would just look at that and tell you, well, now do your best to become this person. Everything you want to see in a partner, do your best to be that person. That's how you bring that person into your life. And that's how you really become worthy of the relationship that you say you want.
Do you ever become jaded to the prospect that, maybe this just isn't for you?
I'm waiting to get jaded.
Really?
I'm really waiting to get, I think I could actually, some rationale would be good in this respect. Very often when people talk about faith in general, and it could be faith in anything, they say, well, do you have proof? But they forget that faith inherently is a process that means that you don't require proof. That is what faith is. I think that if you have love in your heart, then it reflects itself in the world around you, right? It's just that we have decided that the only way that it's legitimate is if it comes in the form of a 6 foot tall man who's funny in the right ways. That's not the only way that love can reflect itself. Love is reflecting itself all the time. And I know that the self-love jargon is very annoying, and I am the most annoyed by it. It's so toxic in its positivity. But really, if you can look into those parts of yourself that come in your way, that get triggered, if you can look into those inner children that are frozen in time, that are waiting to get that love and attention, and you can go there and you can give them that love. That's the only self-love you need. You don't need to give yourself a manicure. You don't need to give yourself a massage. You don't need to go on a pilgrimage.
Everybody's in Rishikesh nowadays, guys. Relax. Sometimes self-love can show up in the form of discipline. Like, it can be tough, it can be hard, it can be setting boundaries that you haven't been able to set.
Boundaries are a big one. We don't know how to do that in India.
Exactly.
I don't want to do too much therapy speak, but not having boundaries is people pleasing. It does stem from a fear of abandonment. Why do we have that? Why do we have that kind of sense of abandonment, especially in this country, which is so full of people that you can't get away from them?
It's your childhood.
It's because we're constantly abandoning ourselves.
I can speak as a woman, like being raised just a people pleaser, suddenly standing up for yourself and making those hard decisions, cutting off those people from your life that you know aren't serving you or that are draining your energy. I think self-love can be a very hard and arduous exercise.
Self-love is tough. It's so tough, and it shouldn't be, but it really is so tough. Can you just sort of be here for yourself and state your needs and ask for what you want? And if those needs aren't met, can you leave on your own? Because that will be you showing up for yourself. Because even if everyone else leaves, you do have yourself.
Correct.
That's the last person we go to.
Yeah. It's the only person we really have.
That's the only person you
through
need.
This life. Yeah, and that goes back to what you said at the very beginning about intrinsic validation. Because as long as you're chasing validation from other people, you're not giving it to yourself. Like, you're always dependent on other people being there. And the day they walk away, you crumble. Like, you just absolutely are
And they will. I would just say that the greatest achievement in my life so far has been that I've understood the spaces that I'm abandoning myself, and I'm just learning how to stop doing that and to show up. And for me, that's good enough. If you can't do that, another person can't do that.
Can you give us an example? You've spoken a lot in theory, like an example of a space in which people tend to self-abandon, or maybe an example where you have done that in the past?
So when I'm in conflict, what I really need is for someone to show up for me right there and then. I need to be held. I need to know that they're here. I need to know that they're not going anywhere. Whereas the other person, what they needed in conflict was space. We were two people who loved each other, who wanted to be good to each other. How to be good to yourself in that moment? It's easy for this person to take space, right? It's easy for them to go away. That's what they need. How do I tell myself that, okay, I need to be held right now. I need to be parented right now. I need to be loved
reassured.
Right now. Can I do that for myself? Can I do that for myself in this moment? Can I also understand that this person needing space says nothing about their love for me? It just means that they need space. Practice the pause, right? Because this is what happens, is that we look at every moment and we're like, oh,
reaction.
I'm not getting what I need.
Yeah.
Don't make it about the other person, because they are wired differently.
Yeah.
And guess what? You chose them.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Allowing everybody to like meet their own needs is probably the foundation of some of the healthiest relationships.
Actually, yeah. Women, especially Indian women, tend to do that. We've learned too much from our mothers and grandmothers. We have too much of this ancestral wounding.
Absolutely.
Where we have to like, oh, you just sort of...
selfless to a fault.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. You mentioned sort of the dynamics too, like within a conflict. In many cases, it's men who like need to step away from a conflict to like process and come back and constructively resolve something, whereas like women really crave that proximity. And it's crazy how like we need the exact opposite things, and that's exactly where like your tribe comes in. That's where your other relationships come in, your girlfriend, your therapist, your mom, your sister, like anybody.
So you can share the load.
And I think we are also programmed to like take care of each other. And
like, you know what's interesting, I just thought of this when you said this, that usually when in conflict, when it's with anyone other than a partner, I too need space. Which is what's very interesting, is that relationships do expose your wounding.
Because you're not anxiously attached with a friend.
No, you're not.
You're so secure that you know they will be there.
Yeah, like my mother sees the worst sides of me because I know she's not going anywhere.
You trust that she's going to be
there. So I've always like, that's who I really am, is the person that she sees. That's not a very nice person. So yeah.
But you feel so safe. You feel so comfortable that that person will not walk away from you.
Yeah.
And I think that level of security is so key.
I think that's what we're all searching for, right? Like in any relationship, essentially you're searching for safety.
Can you ever really be safe? Like, I think once you love someone that deeply, like, you can never be sure that they're going to be there forever. Like, in most cases, they won't be.
Yeah, and you can keep yourself caged from love, from relationship.
Your whole life.
You can constantly keep throwing yourself into fire nonstop, you know, or you can just stay far away forever, you know, die in the cold, whatever you want to call it. Or you can genuinely go through the gamut of the human experience, which is to come here and test it out, you know, just sort of like have fun with it. We pin the entire concept of success in love as happily ever after. And anything other than that is
a failure.
Something that did not, you know, work out or is some kind of a failure.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a difference between the way American guys approach?
So they're very forward. They're very different. Indian guys need at least, you know, like their best friend has to know your best friend, who has to know another common best friend, who needs to like have gone to the same school as like your mother, your father, or something. There needs to be so many connections before a man can approach a woman, which is why I think that maybe women also now need to really sort of up their game and start approaching men a little bit as well, right?
Oh, really? You think so?
Yeah, I do think so. You know, while I know that it doesn't fall into that trope of masculinity and femininity, we do need to put ourselves out there a little bit. And I don't mean that you need to go out there as a power woman in a dating situation, but just think about it, right? So if you are at a party, right? There are so many men, women, everyone there. Which is the guy who's going to come up and talk to you?
I don't know.
It's usually just like the cockiest guy in the room.
The go-getter, yeah.
Right? Fair. It's just the most confident, most cocky dude in the room. And there could be a whole bunch of really like wonderful guys over there who don't have the guts to talk to you. So they don't. And that's not their fault if that's just not their personality. So you end up talking to this cocky dude. And then what happens? You end up going on a bunch of dates with him. You like him, whatever happens. He's going to be that guy in the relationship. When we wonder why we keep dating the same man over and over, it's because that's the only man that will come up to you to talk to you at a party, because you're not talking to anybody else.
Interesting.
Somewhere we do need to kind of put ourselves out there, make it easier.
Yeah.
You know, because women are just very used to being wooed, aren't they?
Right.
Especially Indian women.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think times have changed so much. Like the roles of masculinity and femininity are evolving a lot. And I still think that by making women making the first move is not necessarily violating like some kind of ancient rule book, right? Like you're just giving yourself more autonomy in deciding like what kind of person you'd like.
When we talk about like masculinity and femininity, like we tend to discuss that in terms of societal roles, right? Like
the
nurturer, provider, and all of that. I now only see this as energy. Most of us are either hanging out in toxic masculinity, femininity, or wounded masculinity and femininity. And I'm not saying that every person, every man I meet is toxic, but there is a lot of wounded masculinity that I have seen with perfectly nice people where they have no accountability, they have no responsibility. They do not get into a conversation until you've cornered them into it. Why do you have to ask for a conversation? People talk about this, we need to balance these energies within ourselves, but we do need to transcend these roles of it's so boring.
It's boring. I love your outlook. I love your perspective. I feel it's so empowered. And it's really inspiring for a lot of young people, young single people out there who are subordinate to so much pressure around them and most importantly internally, right? Like the voices inside being so loud. Thank you so much, Eisha, for joining us.
Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Thank you so much for watching another episode of Love Handle. If you enjoyed this video, do be sure to hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave in the comment section below what more questions you'd like us to ask Eisha when she comes back next time. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
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 Main camera.
Oh, we have a main camera.
Yes.